space, we're already time traveling, right? When you look out into space, you're looking into the past. When we look to Mars, it's only 8 minutes in the past. But as you look deeper and deeper, you're realizing that the celestial phenomenon that you're witnessing, that you're studying, happened before you were even born, before maybe even humanity existed. So there's already this romance about time travel that happens just with an astronomer at their telescope. And so I was thinking about how that manifests in a more day-to-day experience of doing astronomy. And for me, when place and time became the most entangled was both at the observatory but also at another field site. The early Apollo and Gemini and Mercury astronauts would go to the American West and learn a little bit about its geological history in their preparation for eventually going to the moon. So you had the Western landscape standing in for the moon, and then when the astronauts finally got to the moon, they said, wow, this looks like the American West. So you have this really funny juxtaposition of place. And I wondered if there was also a juxtaposition of time. So in geology, just like in astronomy, looking up into outer space is looking back in time, in geology, looking at a rock formation is also looking back in time. So it's its own kind of time travel. So I began to see how landscape became a way to capture past, present, and future all in one place. So a landscape that I encountered in Utah, for example, could stand for Mars today. It could connect us to the moon of the past. It could connect us even deeper to a geologic past, so a deep time, but it also could stand in for some kind of future imagination of what human presence on Mars, for example, might be. The landscape, again, means different things to the person who's looking at it, and it also means a different temporality to whoever's looking at it.
What's a free-floating planet? Can a planet form in isolation? Could Jupiter just form alone? And maybe because that feels like a really human question, you know, this idea of solitude in space, what does that mean? And maybe their states aren't so fragile, that they don't need a host star, they just can exist off on their own. And then I'm kind of curious if they're carrying around anything with them. Once you end up forming the way a star does, you should have the opportunity to form with planets around you. So unlike the objects I just mentioned, where I was intrigued because they were young, they were hot. Young things are hot. This thing is old and cold. And we studied it for water ice clouds, whether in those water ice clouds you could have some strange microbial or bacterial life that exists solely in the atmosphere of those water ice clouds.
Water, too, is not a thing known only on our Earth. It has its presence elsewhere in the universe. We always are so obsessed with it because to us, it feels like the sign of life. Though, to be honest, we are selfish and narrow and don't consider what life might look like very different from our lives. Here, our brown dwarf speaks to water on another brown dwarf, trapped inside some water ice clouds on that brown dwarf surface. Maybe this is a manifest of jealousy. Maybe of love.
I've been looking at you for a long time.
I know. I felt your gaze.
How do you feel a gaze?
A gaze is like electromagnetism.
Do you ever think to look back